Hey guys, so I had a spur in the moment idea to just show you guys how I kind of got this look roughly in my last video. Basically, I did something along the lines of this, but I am going to just be deleting this entire node tree and I'm going to work from scratch and I'm going to show you guys what to do. My main goal with this video is kind of show you how to do a black and white look, but like better. Because black and white looks, I don't want to say they're difficult to pull off, but you have to think a little bit differently when you're working with black and white than when you're working with color. And the best way to learn would be to just watch me go from A to B. And then the nuances in the middle, I'll go ahead and talk about as I go. So I'm going to get rid of everything right here. This footage is shot in Rec 2100. Okay, so this footage is all in Rec 2100. So we're going to do our color space transform first. If you don't know what we're doing and why we're doing it, then I have another video for the color space transform somewhere in my YouTube. I would suggest looking that up and then coming back here if you don't know what we're doing. So color space transform right here and set this to Rec 2100, Rec 2100 HLG scene. We're going to take this in Davinci wide gamut because that's the space I like. Grading in, we're going to check HDR 200D nits diffuse white. This is going to make it less intense. And then of course, we're going to get another node, put it right at the end. I'm going to copy, Control C on this, paste it right here, swap, reset these, change this to Rec 709, change this to Gamma 2.4. So it's going to Rec 709 on the way out. Now we have something that's usable right here, but HLG footage is a little bit bright. So we're going to fix that right now. So we're going to do this on our exposure node. And I like doing wide adjustments first and then narrowing it down to the specifics. So we can use the curves and everything, but I prefer to use these primary squeals just because I've been using Davinci Resolve for a long time. And to know if I'm getting a good exposure, I'll turn the qualifier focus on right here. Choose the qualifier right here, hover over my skin. I know for a fact that my skin's a bit lighter, so this looks about good. It's in the mid-tone range and we're good to go. And then also in this next node, I can change the sat, but that would be if you're working with color. So there's two ways you can do this. You can check this monochrome box right here, and then you could change the red output, the green output, and the blue output to fit your look. But I prefer to use Colin Kelly's color grading assets. So I'm actually going to put one of his LUTs on the fourth node right here. I'm going to go to CKC, the Voyager pack, Essentials. If you want to buy the Essentials pack, it's I would say it's worth it once you really know what you're doing, because I can kind of slap this on and then kind of refine the look from there. So we're going to slap that on. Cool. But then we're going to do something even crazier. So in one of my other videos, I've referenced the iridescent color DCTL stuff. And DCTLs are just basically plugins that work in the color grading page in Davinci. Now, he has one that's called black and white. This one right here. You can download it from his website. I'll put a link in the description. So this will change things to black and white. But if I change this compositing mode to luminosity, all of a sudden this becomes a density tool. A really subtle density tool, because it's only affecting the Luma channel on this node. It's not affecting colors. So if I change the reds, as you can see, the reds move around. So let's do the yellows and the greens if there are any greens, cyans, blues if there are any magentas. So it seems like we have majority red in this image. So we can actually change that to the red that I remember there being right there. There we go. You could change the density of those reds. And we're doing this beforehand because on this third node, the color information still hasn't been converted to black and white, which is on this node. All right, cool. Then after this node right here, okay, and where I'm going to label these real quick for you guys. So density, and then the LUT. Now the LUT is literally just a black and white conversion with a film tone curve applied to it. So if you don't have this or you don't have the money for it, I would suggest doing the other process from earlier. I'm going to disable this right here. Just go to Monochrome and then play around with these channels right here and then apply your tone curve. And as you can see, just from doing that, I'm getting something really similar with a different tonality on the reds than the LUT that I have inputted. So reset, drag this down here. Now this is how I make my black and whites pop. Black and white is going to be even amongst all channels. And the screen you're observing this in is going to be showing this black and white in RGB. Now, to make the black and white pop more, or to trick people's eyes into thinking it pops more, I am going to take the red channel and I'm going to bump it down, and I'm going to take the blue channel and then bump it to the left. And I'm just going to be harsh about it so you guys can see. And I'm going to pay attention to my vector scope because I don't want it to deviate too far from the center. This dot, as you can see, is smack dab in the middle, no color information, then boom, we're adding some just a little bit. And it's not affecting the darkest areas of the image, it's only affecting the brightest areas, as in the whites. And those whites, depending on the screen that you're observing this on, are going to be more clean looking by doing this. And then we can start adding some, pizzazz or accents to this. So remember what I said, I do generic white adjustments? That all happened up here. So we have our CSTs, our exposure, our density, our LUT, another CST going out. We're fixing our tone on the way out. So this is being affected in Rec 709, right? And then now we're working and doing the creative stuff. So I'm going to add a glow. And this is all up to you guys, how you want to do this. You can add glow, and you can affect the spread, and you can just change the threshold. Or you could go down here and change this to soft light. Soft light makes this behave completely different. I'll show you guys that right now. Where is soft light? Right there. As you can see, it kind of brings more attention to the brighter areas. It makes the darker areas a lot more subtle. Depends on if you like the look or not. I do a lot, so I'll park it right here. And then I'll add my sauce. Now, usually my sauce would involve me changing this to a screen compositing mode, right? And then, of course, we bump this up all the way to 3 for the radius on the blur. And then I'll bring this key output down and then crank it back up. But recently I've been noticing that if I change this compositing mode to lighten, it like inverts it. It makes it attack the shadows more. And I don't know what it is. I just like this. So I'll put it around like 0.15. And as you can see, I'm going to be aggressive with it. It softens out the shadows and then bleeds over into the highlights. It's pretty neat how that works. But I've been playing around with that recently. Now we can definitely stop there, right? We're going to put this back at 1.5 or 0.15. Okay, so now we have all that done. Good heavens, I closed the window. All right, now I had some technical difficulties, but I resolved them. The screen's back. So now let's move into the last part. So we're going to use more compositing modes because I've been playing around with those a lot as well. Now we're going to move to the last part where I'm going to hit Alt S and then Alt P on my keyboard to make a parallel mixer. And what this is basically going to do is it's going to allow me to add multiple nodes that then combine and then are shipped out from the same signal. If you want to add more nodes, you can just hit Alt P multiple times and they're all basically holding hands with each other on the way out. And I put 3 here. That doesn't mean I'm going to use 3, but just put 3 here because. And let's just say I wanted to darken the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Now, some people usually put a mask right here, park it right there, and then probably crank down on the gamma and play with the gain and stuff like that. But it's a lot more easier for me to just hit compositing mode and then go to multiply on this node and then crank up the key output right here. And then I'll basically like bring it to a point where it looks convincing and it doesn't look like I'm darkening this too much. Same thing with, I can copy paste the same exact mask to this by hitting Control C, then Control V on this one. Bring it to the other side as so. And that will make this side darker. And then I can hit Control C and Control V and bring another mask just like this. But we're going to change this one's compositing mode to linear dodge. And we're going to put it on me. And what linear dodge does is it lightens things. And I have another completely separate video going over the compositing modes that I use most frequently, or I found to be the most useful, just, doing my own research. There's like absolutely nothing out there really like that's hardcore evidence as to like if using these is better. I just have seen that this works very well with 8-bit footage and it doesn't make anything break. So I just tend to use these compositing modes as opposed to playing with all the exposure controls down here. So I'll park this linear dodge compositing node like right here, right above me. And then if we enable and disable all of these nodes, like so, oops, you can see that we are shaping the image out. We are bringing more attention to where we want the viewer to look using the light that was already present. We are not exactly like editing and going overboard and trying to like push and pull the image really hard. We're just telling the image to basically forget the information that we don't want it to like remember. And then we are bringing out information from areas where it was a little bit muted. And then on the last node, what I'll do is I will sharpen what I have. Now the sharpening can take place before or after the glow and the sauce. That's totally up to you. I started adding the sharpening near the very end and it seems to look nice to me. And there you have it. I'm just going to play this back for you guys so that you guys can see. And that looks pretty neat. Not going to lie. That looks pretty good. Cool. Now the last thing you're going to want to do is I have in my power bins. Yeah, there we go. In my power bins, I have grain. And these plates were like some dude on the internet like happened to just have these plates laying around. He made them himself and I downloaded them a long time ago, early into my career. And I don't even remember where to get them. But basically, if you want something similar to this, you would look up film grain plates free on the internet and see if there's anybody that offers them. There's one trustworthy source that I know about called Gorilla Grain, and I'm not sure if it's still around, but if I do find it, I'll put a link in the description as well. Yeah, so what you'll do is I'll take something like this 16mm 24 FPS film grain right here, and I'll bring it over my footage. And as you can see, it doesn't look too pretty, but I'm going to bring up the inspector, and I'm going to increase the size, and then I'm going to go to the composite mode. And we're going to go to, you can go to soft light or overlay. I prefer overlay. So you can see if I turn this on and off, there we go. You can see the film grain and you could change the opacity to make a difference in the density of that film grain. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at 100% because I don't know how YouTube compression is going to affect this, but I'm going to let it play back and you'll see the little film grain dancing around. Now, if you wanted to make multiple of these, you could hit Control C and then Control V, and then composite all of these. And as you can see, you'll run into that problem where it black screens, right? To avoid that, just don't add the overlay until you make a bunch of these iterations. Then you compound it. And after you compound it, you're going to do the same thing as before. You're going to go to overlay and then boom, there you go. Now, if your footage is running at a different frame rate, you can definitely go and instead, you can look up film grain in the effects panel right here, spawn another node by hitting Alt S, dragging film grain right here onto the last one. And these are all presets. These aren't exactly like accurate to all the film stocks like grain, but you can customize and make your own. And you can even hit this button right here to view the grain only to see what it's doing. And there you go. There's your grain if you don't have film plates to use. That's pretty much it. That's how I get my like black and white looks. And if you wanted something even more muted, like I said, you could just go over and play with your exposure and pull up your scopes and bring this down and bring this up and bring this down and bring this up and change the way the highlight roll off is working. So yeah, that's pretty much how I handle black and white looks. And I prefer simple. If anybody has any questions on like why I made certain decisions that I didn't explain, I hope I explained everything perfectly. Just leave a comment and reach out to me on Instagram if you want to know more. But peace, guys. And you guys have a wonderful day.